Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to have a video. This is a paid request for John McKinney. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, whether it be a topic, reaction, commentary, review, re-review, random, tier list ranking, commentary, movie review, video game playthrough, whatever the case may be, I'll get to it as soon as I can. Bear with me. Really do appreciate it. And links are down below in the info box if you wish to. But John McKinney wanted me to look at a program that was on the Fox network in 1999, so yeah, 25 years ago, called Night of the Headless Horseman. And the reason I have stuff jotted down is to remember the people involved in this, meaning it has some recognizable people in the voice cast. William H. Macy, who was in Fargo, underrated film called Cellular. He was in Jurassic Park 3, Pleasantville, been a lot of stuff. Luke Perry, may he rest in peace. You have Tia Carrere from Wayne's World and True Lies. You got Clancy Brown, who was in Highlander. He was in Pet Sematary 2. Done a lot of stuff. So it was cool to have these recognizable people here. That's the only thing worth the crap in this. And also this is the same year that Tim Burton's film, Sleepy Hollow, came out. Which I gotta say, I mean, knowing the Headless Horseman story, I've seen one other version of the story and then this one. Sleepy Hollow is like the only one I've liked so far. And because it's very, very loosely based on the story. I kind of realized the actual story I don't like. Because it's just very depressing and the bad guys win and just pisses me off because here's a school teacher that, bit scared. Some would say cowardly, but I don't know, to me it's just he'd be scared like anybody else would. So to me it's more understandable. Comes to town, be a teacher, the kids are brats, falls in love with a girl, she seems to like him, and then you have this other guy, almost a Braun Breaker. Another guy named Braun, who's pissy and a douchebag and treats him like crap over and over again, does pranks on him until eventually Ichabod Crane goes down to the night, chased by the Headless Horseman, and then never seen again. I'm like, man, this guy don't really deserve that fate. And the bad guy gets the girl, and the bad guy, gets a happily ever after. What kind of bullshit is this? I'm like, fuck this story. Sleepy Hollow I like a lot more because I'm sure this is not what Tim Burton thought of. But it's like someone said, screw this story. I'm going to take, the Headless Horseman, which is a cool villain, cool aesthetic, cool idea. I just make my own version that's very bloody and gory, and Ichabod Crane makes it more interesting of a character where he's a scientist and does forensics in this era where forensics weren't really a thing, and it's a happy ending and he gets the girl, and Sleepy Hollow is from what I've seen is the only Headless Horseman story I like, because it's not like the story. So, but this one, the biggest problem I had is it's a short one. It's 40-some minutes long. I don't know if this was done because Sleepy Hollow, the movie, was coming out. So Fox is like, well, let's have something to get that movie's attention. As in, hey, that movie's coming out. People don't be talking about that movie. People don't be thinking about this movie. Well, if we have a Headless Horseman thing, they'll see, wait a minute, does one connect to the other? And some of their stuff that will rub off onto us. Whatever success they possibly will make, this is Tim Burton and Johnny Depp, we'll get some of the success. It'll rub off onto us, and we'll get a couple eyes on the screen. Although, if you did watch this, don't be surprised if you're blind, because this awful, awful looking animation. Because what it did was that early CG animation that looks like movies like Food Fight, the TV show Reboot, which, I mean, the TV show Reboot has a charm for its time. Plus, dealing with the video game VR world, I mean, there's a charm to it, but I do not think that's a good-looking show. I don't. Maybe at the time it seemed unique, but if I watch Reboot nowadays, I'm like, God damn, this doesn't look that good. Yeah, I mean, it's of its time, so maybe I could be a bit more lenient. It's not like if they made this exact same thing today, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like if this was made now with the same awful effects, there'd be a lot more to be pissy about. But even then, I'm like, was this even good looking back then? They look like, you know, sometimes you have these PS1 games, you have like the actual cutscenes that are really not that good looking, but you know, they weren't really that long in these. So a lot of it would be in-game cutscenes, like they use the assets of the game to create a cutscene within that. I think that's why like Metal Gear Solid went with more cutscenes using the stuff in the game more than you have the codec. Or like Resident Evil, they used the live-action actors and the in-game. This is... You remember Alien Trilogy? Where you had like 30 seconds? Yeah, hell, I'd rather watch that. That to me even looked more aesthetically pleasing than this. This looked like... I can't think of like Reboot, like those TV shows. It's just ugly looking. Just ugly looking. Like Ichabod Crane, his head looks like a football, like tall and thin. Brawn, non-breaker. They all look like chodes. This has the ugliest looking fucking kids I've ever seen in an animated thing. The ugliest looking kids. All these kids in this should have been aborted. Like, you look at these kids, they're animated, folks. Don't get pissed at animated characters. They're not real. I'm not talking about the people who voice them. I'm not talking about the real people. I'm talking about the way these kids look. Every one of them you would have pulled out before they were born. Oh, that's so... What's that? That's a picture of them. Wait, I thought that was from Tales from the Dark Side. No. This is the dark side of the Force. Your Force, if you did, going into her snatch and unleashing your fluids will create this juxtaposition of Satan. Oh, shit. I better... Yep. I'll just spill in my hand or spill in your mouth. Not in her. It melts in your mouth, not in your hands. Just the ugliest looking kids you'll ever see in a movie. Animated or otherwise. Just chodes. And it's just so ugly looking. Like, I keep wanting to say PlayStation 1 games, but that's an insult to PS1 because I love the PS1. That's why I don't want to insult the PS1. The PS1 didn't do anything to me. It said give me a lot of good games, so I don't want to make fun of the PS1. But it's just ugly looking animation. Why don't you show it? Because with YouTube's hypocritical status, even this will probably get me tagged for some stupid reason. I mean, hell, just look at the poster and see the guy's face. You see the guy's face? Now imagine then the reboot type of animation, you got your answer. Ugly as shit. Part of me would have rather... You know what? If they took the time and made this all in claymation, it would be time consuming, but that at least would have been more appealing as a visual. But instead, it's just because the animation is so clunky, there are sometimes people doing these weird poses. Like Tia Carrere is the woman who Luke Perry as Braun loves and William H. Macy as Ichabod Crane loves. And she's mad that Luke Perry won't marry her because he keeps saying he's going to marry her. Keeps blowing her off, elongating the date. And then William H. Macy trying to pick her up and try to teach her how to sing. And then Tia Turner, like, sometimes has her hands like this, then sometimes does this. Like, the way certain people do these poses, they just look so goofy and silly and ugly. Another recognizable voice, Mark Hamill. He's a guy that at one point tells the backstory of the Headless Horseman, where you just see the remains of this battle. You hear stuff happening, but you just see the remains of the battle until the Headless Horseman, looking like a melted Uncle Fester, shows up, stabs someone. Although it looked like he stabbed him over here and missed him, but when he pulls out, there's a little blood on it. And apparently, the guys, even though he got stabbed, he takes a cannonball and blows the guy's head up. One off, I should say. The cannonball takes the guy's head. It's not, I mean, it is a short story, but man, there's just, there's really not a whole lot to it. It's Clancy Brown telling Washington Irving this story. Of course, Washington Irving is the guy who made the actual story. So Clancy Brown's telling the story about what happened. Ichabod Crane came into town. He's this new schoolmaster, school teacher. On his way, he's chatting a bit with Mark Hamill, meets Tia Carrere, meets Luke Perry. Luke Perry doesn't like him. William H. Macy tries to get in Tia Carrere's panties. Gets invited for dinner. Loves ham. He's like, ooh, ham. Oh my God, I love ham. Says lines like, proof in the pudding is in the eating. Trying to quote, I guess they say Don Quixote. There are points that Luke Perry's character is pissed off. Also, like, Luke Perry's buddy is Bill Karbati. The guy in The Stand, the original, who is with Rob Lowe, he's like, M-O-O-N. That spells, then whatever the hell it doesn't spell. M-O-O-N. He was also Craig T. Nelson's buddy on the TV show Coach. And he's the voice in SpongeBob SquarePants, the, oh, what's the character's name in SpongeBob? Patrick. He's the voice of Patrick, the starfish on SpongeBob. He plays Luke Perry's buddy. There's a bit of William H. Macy teaching the kids, and the kids are like all wrinkly old senior citizens ready for their diaper change. And they all look like Satan pulled out and whipped them with their dick. His dick, anybody's dick. Diseased dick. At times the music seems louder than the dialogue. Not that the dialogue is worth fuck. The ugliest kids ever. At one point, Luke Perry's character does his prank with smoke that looks like everything's on fire. And then scare him thinking it's the Headless Horseman coming after him. Tia Carere's character is barely a character. In the second half, she almost vanishes. There's one bit where she sees if William H. Macy's okay after that smoke dust up. Then William H. Macy's character has a cemetery nightmare where a head is talking on a tombstone. Then Luke Perry's character tells more about the legend to freak him out more. And then Ichabod Crane goes out. He's chased by the Headless Horseman. They gallop around and around and around until they get to a bridge, and for some reason William H. Macy just stops. Then he turns, the Horseman is ready to throw the pumpkin, and William H. Macy's character just has his hands up and goes like this. And he doesn't move. And the way it's staged with this clunky ass animation, like the pumpkin's going, and it'll go like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Just look shit. And the voice acting, William H. Macy is, does what he can. Same with Tia Carrere. Luke Perry sounded like he was doing a school play. He was awful. I'm sorry, Luke Perry, rest in peace, but he was awful in this. The few bits you hear Clancy Brown, he's definitely doing the best. But he has that voice that works so well with voice acting. Sadly, you don't really get to hear Clancy Brown a whole lot. And then they add a bit more, spoiler, where Clancy Brown says that the people never saw Ichabod Crane again, and Braun married the girl for 30 years. She died, and then the horseman came to collect. And then the twist is Clancy Brown is actually the Headless Horseman, and he has Braun's face, and said that was part of the deal, is he had to take over for the... He says Braun had to take over for the Horseman, but then I guess it's not Luke Perry's voice, otherwise it would have given it away. Then he's like, hold this head, I have to keep this head while I find another. Which I don't know why he wouldn't just immediately cut Washington Irving's head off, or what the hell else. Or why he has Braun's head, but it's not the Luke Perry voice, it's... And, like, Clancy Brown, I don't think we ever heard his voice before, I don't think. I don't think we did. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna look deep into it, because I don't care. I don't care. I think there was a Headless Horseman movie with Jeff Goldblum back in the day. I would like to look like Headless Horseman movies. Like, what all have there been? Let's see. Well, I didn't tonight. My internet, it's going to get worked out. Just one of those, like, not quite outage, but it's slowed down because something far away happened. So this might not show it. But I know, of course, Sleepy Hollow is a good one. I think there was one in 2007. I guess, for Sci-Fi Channel. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, I think that's the one I saw, and wasn't, it was what it was. I think that was the previous one I had seen. This is a silent film version. That's interesting. There's a silent version? Huh. 1922, wow. Sleepy Hollow I do like. Yeah, 2007 there's the Headless Horseman. I think there was one with Jeff Goldblum. I swear there was. And it wasn't well regarded either. Sorry, I know well, 6 out of 10, 1980, so 60%. So actually, that's not too bad. Although I guess if it ends the same way, I don't know if I want to see Jeff Goldblum, get killed by the damn Headless Horseman. The bad guy get away with it. Dit Butkus was Brahm? Dub Bears. Dub Bears. Really, Dit Butkus? I didn't know. And Maid Foster was the lady. Wow, okay. Dit Butkus. Dub Bears. Dub Bears. So, yeah, there you go. Anyway. Sorry, I went off tangent there, but I guess if you're desperate to see every version of the Headless Horseman story, or you're that intrigued because of nostalgia, maybe you saw this back to the day 25 years ago, or hey, look at the voice cast: William H. Macy and Luke Perry, May Recipes, Clancy Brown, Tia Carrere, and then you got Mark Hamill, you got Patrick from SpongeBob. But again, Mark Hamill, he's like he 2 or 3 times he appears, or his voice appears. Clancy Brown's not in it a whole lot. William H. Macy does okay, but it's not one of his finest hours. Luke Perry, again, it's I think one of his weaker roles. And it's just so ugly, and that will be so distracting. I think it would affect any possible enjoyment you would get out of this. Which even then, it's just, the typical, if you know the story, follows that. Just you say it does a little twist at the end. Violence, there's a little bit of blood you see. Like the guy that he tells at the beginning, you do see a little pool of blood flow on the ground. Like there's a bit he stabs someone, he pulls out, you see the sword covered with blood. But not a whole lot. And like I said, I guess it'll depend how much or how little you'll deal with that, the animation, the look of it. Which to me I thought was absolute garbage. I mean, if this was primitive animation, I probably would still not like the story or most of the voice acting and such. But the ugly animation is definitely the biggest crime this special has. So, with that said, looked like someone farted out animation, to be honest. God. If CGI was a person that took a dump, this is what that dump would look like. This type of CG. We'll see you guys later. Or again, if you want to see the ugliest kids ever, here you go. Bye-bye.